After 28 years presiding on the bench in the state of New York, Judge Michael Corriero dons the black robe once again. This time, he's serving on hot bench. I'm Michael Real, and this is RealUrbanNews.com. We speak to the judge exclusively from the set.
Pay contractors directly unless you have a contract representation to me.
He was owed for rent. He tried to...
So how did you come up with a bill of what?
Judge Corriero, what is it like serving on hot bench?
It's really been a delight. I'm so pleased to be working with Judge DiMango and Judge Acker. They're really outstanding women, they're outstanding lawyers, they're outstanding judges, and it makes my job a lot easier.
What is this format like for you? You're serving with two distinguished judges. They have great legal careers. You bring in your insight and your perspective. What's it like?
We all have our own areas of expertise. At least that's what I've noticed. I know that Judge DiMango understands certain things a lot better than I do, and Judge Acker does. And I hope that I bring something to the table also to them. Maybe it's the male perspective.
It's beyond the male perspective.
He brings more than that.
There's a lot more that he brings than that.
Judge Acker, how's he doing?
I could not ask for a more wonderful colleague, a more wonderful second colleague. I love these New Yorkers. I love her, I love him.
Sure.
It's really, look, for somebody who wasn't a judge before they started doing a show and to have the chance to sit on the bench with Judge Corriero and Judge DiMango, who are teaching me every day how to manage some of this nonsense, it's just a real joy. And Michael's got an incredible commitment to justice and taking care of kids and trying to do the right thing in life. So he's quite a role model and inspiration to me.
Judge DiMango, what advice did you give your fellow New Yorker before he joined you on hot bench?
Actually, there wasn't really much advice to give him other than to be himself.
Sure.
Because I practiced as a young attorney, a prosecutor, in front of the judge when he was on the bench in New York City. And he was just loved, he was just bright, he was just fair. As a prosecutor, I want to say he was a little bit, leaned a little bit towards being helpful to those that are accused. But I just said, just be who you are. Everybody's going to love you. They're going to love everything about you, just as we did in New York City. And he has. This
format working for you, the three-judge format?
I am really blessed and I'm not kidding, because one of the wonderful things, for 27 years as a judge, I had to make decisions by myself. I had to decide live with the decisions. I have two bright, intelligent women to share the decision-making process with me, so I'm ecstatic. At this point in my life, I think I've been truly blessed. I have to thank Judge Judy, actually, for bringing me here, and to reigniting my relationship with Judge DiMango, who was a wonderful young prosecutor who appeared before me, who tried to do justice. And even though I did lean towards the underprivileged and the disadvantaged, we did manage to get along very well.
We did. We really did.
It's a small world.
It definitely is. When he came back and Judge Judy said, "A surprise for you." And when I saw him walk in, there was no better surprise. There really wasn't. And the three of us have just melded so well and so beautifully that, it's just been wonderful. It really has been.
This case feels very simple to me. I'm wondering if the two of you agree. Here are the broad strokes that I see. She engaged him to do some work. She said, "You'll be paid when the insurance company pays me." The insurance company pays her. She pays him $0.
I don't like the idea that he says 6 hours in a complaint, which I assume he's read and acknowledged as true, and then adds to it at some other point. And I don't like the idea that he's unable to give an estimate, because an estimate is essentially that, an estimate.
When you're negotiating with an insurance company, he's not going to come in and lowball his work.
The insurance company always
Exactly.
Exactly.
And who made her the guardian of protecting insurance companies?
Are you ready?
I'm ready to go.
Judge DiMango, it is a small world after all. You all were serving in New York as judges, as advocates. Talk about that experience.
Well, when I first met Judge Corriero, I was a prosecutor in the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office. The judge was on the bench in the Supreme Court, and I was handling volumes of cases in front of him. And it was an absolute delight. We had so many judges, but none of them had the temperament, the knowledge, the experience, the background, and the compassion for the defendants that were before us and for the DA's office as well, and really just doing the right thing while balancing the interests of the public along with those of some of these underprivileged children who had difficult lives. So it was amazing. And then at some point we were colleagues, because then I became a judge on the bench,
Sure.
and then a Supreme Court judge, and then we were on the same page as where we are now, basically.
And now you're reigning on hot bench.
Yes, we're working together. To me, it's we've come full circle in a sense. And the idea behind a hot bench is a panel of judges that are interested, passionate, and engaged in the cases before them. And Judge DiMango, when she first appeared before me as a prosecutor, it was an absolute. She used the word delight, and it was true, because we worked every day with deep emotional issues, that people are upset, that people are concerned, parents, family members, with respect to their loved ones, and we were in a kind of pressure cooker. But to work with someone like Judge DiMango, who was always prepared, good sense of humor, always a smile on her face, it broke it down, and we were able to do justice.
Judge, that New York courtroom, that melting pot of the globe prepares you to listen to the cases and the litigants that appear before you here on hot bench.
Oh, absolutely. I think that we when we presided over arraignments, for example, in night court in Manhattan, it was like presiding over the gates of hell in many ways. But actually, it was a very dramatic period of time that we spent on the bench, because we got to see every social issue, every social ill, and tried to work with it in a way that was positive and constructive. And so we were actually being prepared for what we're seeing today, because we're getting cases from all over the country, and they're important cases. They're important to the litigants, and it may not involve large amounts of money, but it involves a matter of respect or dignity and honor, and we try to do the best we can to resolve it.
As New Yorkers, Judge, you all must be proud to be really setting the standard for court television and these court programs.
Well, I think beginning, of course, with Judge Judy Sheindlin, of course. I mean, she is the quintessential queen of the TV court shows. She does hail from New York. That's where her background is. She was in the trenches, like Judge Corriero and I were in the trenches in both. She was in the family court, and us in the Supreme Court in the criminal term. And there's just nothing that prepares you more for life and human experience than to pick up the nuances of individual differences and looking into cases and wanting to do the right thing. And I think that even though Judge Corriero and I maybe have a different slant on occasion, the judge being a little more compassionate sometimes, that's not necessarily true. Because when I was on the bench and I handled cases where the victims were crimes against children, I similarly was situated like the judge, where we were looking out for the underdog, for the people that no one spoke out for the people that needed our help, needed us to intercede and do the right thing by them. Me from perhaps the victim side, and the judge perhaps from the defense side, but nevertheless working towards that one goal, which is to make sure that the right person is punished and that justice is done.
When working, although we didn't work together as judges, of course, we had our own separate courts, I followed very closely Judge DiMango's career. And one of the things that everyone always said about her is that she knows how to deal with young people who come before her. She has a special sensitivity to the issues that young people who get in trouble are presented with, and their families. And that's something that was very personal and important to me, because I dedicated a good portion of my professional career on the bench to working with young people who were in trouble and trying to find ways where we could safely channel them out of the system and put them in a situation where they could recover from their childhood mistakes. So Judge DiMango and I are on the same plane when it comes to that, being fair and just and giving children an opportunity to work out their issues.
We can
That's
see
true.
that fairness and that compassion here on Hot Bench.
Thank you. Well, we hope you can, because we really work to carry that here with us and to bring that experience, because that's how you make a good judge. I learned from him even how to be a judge.
And I'm glad that you captured that, because that's essentially what Hot Bench is, and what it means to me, and I think to Judge DiMango, and that it is a medium for the expression of ideas about justice. And if we can communicate to those who are watching the show what we believe justice to be, we're kind of raising the game, raising the level. And we're doing it in a way, and when we sit back here and we talk and we disagree, we don't disagree disagreeably. we disagree as professionals, and we walk out of here, and whatever our disagreements are, they're not personal. And they deal with perhaps our perceptions of what a case should be resolved, but we are together in trying to arrive at justice.
And that's because we don't bring our personal feeling into the deliberation process. What we do is we really look objectively at the facts. And so therefore, when he's voicing his opinion about how he feels, and I'm voicing mine, and even Tanya voicing hers, it really becomes, you can't be personal, because you know what we're doing is really stepping back from it and just doing what we think is the right thing. And it just has worked out beautifully.
And it's not only that we disagree in that way, it's because we respect each other, and we respect each other's point of view. We may not agree with it, but we respect it.
Judge Corero,
Yes.
28 years on the bench in New
Yes.
York. It's a wonderful career.
I was a judge for 28 years, actually in the criminal courts of the state of New York. In the last 14 years, I had the responsibility of resolving the cases of all the 13, 14, and 15-year-old children who were being prosecuted as adults and their co-defendants, regardless of age. So I actually had the responsibility of resolving the cases of thousands of New York City adolescents. And that experience really informed a lot of my opinions and concepts with respect to juvenile justice. And what we tried to do in creating this youth park process, over which I was the presiding judge, was to develop a way in which we could identify the child that we thought we could safely channel out of the system by placing them in alternative to incarceration programs, carefully monitoring their behavior, taking a personal interest in their progress and achievement. And I think that made a significant difference in the way young people were treated in New York. But New York, is really, right now, pretty much an outlier in the way in which it treats young people. Now, for example, here in Los Angeles, as I understand, you have the largest juvenile justice system in the country. But nevertheless, in New York, we are only one of 2 states in the entire nation that sets the general age of criminal responsibility as low as 16. And we go down to 13 for young people accused of murder, and 14 and 15 who were accused of other so-called serious juvenile offender offenses. And my responsibility when I was on the bench was to try and work with that population of young people so that we could link them, those that we thought were suitable, with services that could help them undo the issues that they were confronting that were leading them into criminal behavior, and undo the damage that they had experienced up to that point in their lives.
We were speaking earlier with your hot bench colleagues,
yes.
Judge Patricia
DiMango,
DiMango
yes.
and Judge Acker.
Yes.
And both of your colleagues talked about your humanity and your compassion. Did you gain that providing or presiding over the youth court?
I think judges are the sum total of their life experiences and how they grow to interpret those experiences from one era of their lives to another. Now, I was born in Manhattan's Little Italy.
Sure.
I grew up in a tenement, 5-story tenement walk-up, no elevator. We lived on the top floor, and we lived in 3 small rooms. My father did not have a steady job until he was in his 30s, and he did the work of a longshoreman on the docks. My mother she was one of 7, and she had to drop out of school when her father died. She was the oldest, and she was 14. So neither of them were formally educated, but they believed in the power of education. And when I was old enough, they sent me to Chinatown, to a Catholic parochial school run by the Maryknoll missionaries. And the Maryknoll missionaries were kind of an interesting group of Catholic missionaries, not the kind of image you might have of the nun. They were missionaries. They were passionate, and they were involved, believe it or not, at that particular time, in trying to convert China, no less. But they were fired up, and they had this zeal, if you will. And somehow they communicated that to us, the students. Now, we probably didn't realize it at the time, but they were kind of laying these seeds for us. And they insisted that I go on to high school. My parents supported that idea. I was able to go on to college and law school. And the idea of education as a way of transcending the issues that perhaps you were born into, or the circumstances you were born into, gave you the power to change the circumstances of your life, is something I believe in, and I know is true. And so here we are. Here I am in my 70s. May I confess that?
You look great.
I'm here in Los Angeles,
Sure.
the land of dreams. As you said before, your people here grow up beneath the signs. Is that the phrase?
We live beneath the Hollywood sign.
You live beneath the Hollywood sign, but you are in a place where dreams can come true. And perhaps that idea of dreams coming true is probably more evident in a place like Hollywood than it might be in other parts of the country. But this idea of the American dream, this idea that no matter who you are or where you come from, you have an equal opportunity to succeed. That's what a democracy means. And that's the power of the democracy, to sustain that dream. And I think for lawyers and judges, our responsibility is to make sure that American dream is as open for those coming after us as it was for us.
When did you realize that you wanted to be a judge?
Well, if you had seen me at 14 years of age standing on the corner of Mulberry and Hester Street with a cigarette hanging out of my mouth, dressed like and emulating the gangsters of the period, you would say, this kid would never grow up to be a judge. He's going to be before a judge. And it wasn't until I had reached this level of education that really propelled me into the legal profession in a way in which I found that I was very comfortable in helping people through the law. And in helping people through the law, I came to the attention of some of the most prominent and well-respected judges in the city during the 70s when I was practicing as a lawyer. And they encouraged me to apply for a judgeship. And I did, and I miraculously went through Ed Koch, Mayor Koch's special panel, and at 37 years old, he appointed me to the criminal court. And my mother and father were alive to see their son become a judge. And in one generation, we went from that poor tenement household to a judge, and it affirmed for them everything that they did, every sacrifice they made, and every value that they concentrated on to give me an opportunity to succeed in this wonderful democracy.
So much to talk about because you're
much.
Truly living the American story. Because of your time on the bench, you were able to author a book entitled Judging Children as Children in 2006.
Yes.
Talk about that experience.
That book grew out of my experience in working with young people and trying to pull it all together and say, how can we improve?
Young people are your passion.
Yes. I think it's because of my own experience as a young person growing up. I saw how easily a careless choice could alter the course of your life as a teenager. And I feel very fortunate that I was able to transcend a lot of those problems and issues and pinpoints in time where a step to the left could have got me into a lot of trouble and a step to the right led me to a lifetime of professionalism.
Sure.
So I never forgot that. I never forgot what it was like to be young and to be faced with those issues. This idea of wanting to be accepted, the group experience, and what does friendship mean, and how do you navigate a community like Little Italy, which was so introspective, which was so insulated, where perhaps the police weren't always viewed as being necessarily helpful, and that or partners and trying to help you out. So you had to understand these things at a very early age, and I never forgot that. And I believe because I have been blessed that I have a responsibility to try and help and try and pave a way, if I can, for young people who can constructively respond to the issues presented to them.
It's duly noted that you and your colleague, the creator of this wonderful show, Judge Judy,
Judge
you all
Judy,
go
wonderful.
back to your time.
Now let me just tell you the story about how I met Judge Judy.
Okay.
I had just left. I became a prosecutor early on in my career, and I had left and started to practice criminal law. And I felt very comfortable in being a criminal defense lawyer. And I was assigned a case to represent in the family court in New York City a 12-year-old boy who was accused of murder. And I discovered during my investigation of this case that this young boy was really taking the weight for this crime for an older boy who, had he been arrested, would have faced life imprisonment because of his age, whereas this younger boy could only be placed for a period of time and be looked at as a juvenile delinquent. But this younger boy was so intimidated, so frightened by this older boy who had this terrible reputation in the community that he would not divulge who it was that actually committed the crime. And when the fingers were pointed at him, he didn't protest. And so, but in the investigation, I realized that he was not guilty, and I managed to persuade him to trust me, so that I could take this story to the prosecutor, and perhaps with the prosecutor work out a way where we could let him tell the truth without necessarily implicating anybody else, just with respect to exonerating himself. And so I went to the prosecutor and I said, would you give my client a lie detector test? Because I really believe that he's innocent and taking the weight for somebody else. And to me, it was very important that this prosecutor had an open mind and was willing to trust me and willing to do that. And she didn't have to.
Sure.
And do you know who that prosecutor was?
Judge Judy.
Judge Judy. And my client passed the lie detector test. And a material witness that was the witness against my client failed it. And he was the actual part. And together, we worked to prevent a miscarriage of justice. And ever since that case, we've known each other, we respected each other. We may not have agreed on many things, but we've had this mutual respect. And when she reached out to me a year ago, or actually 6 months ago, it was like, wow. She reminded me that I was her favorite judge. And I said, of course you are. And so here I am in Hollywood.
Welcome to Hollywood.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Alrighty. Judge Michael Corriero.
Yes.
Thank you for being
My pleasure.
super kind.
Thank you very much.
We could talk for hours.
Anytime.